Apparently she was a trans man, and me not wanting to date her is transphobic. You have to be attracted to them.
Added a height toggle to Tinder. Where is the weight toggle?
You're not his maid. Why are you doing that for him? Got abandoned mid-date because I was appropriating another culture? Because you're not Asian enough anyway. Felt pressured into identifying as gay. That's not a good flag to be using. It's offensive. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're diving into your unhinged dating experiences because in today's world, having a preference makes you problematic. You're suddenly transphobic, or you're racist, or you're too traditional, or you're not traditional enough, or you're told to broaden your horizons, not because you want to, but because you don't want to offend anyone. And that sounds exhausting, so we're gonna unpack that chaos and delusion today. But before we jump in, make sure you are subscribed because I said so and you're gonna do what I said. Okay, anyways, so not exactly a dating experience, but closely related. Years ago, I ran a Discord server for adult gamers ages ranging between 18 and early 40s. We spent many fun evenings winding down after work / school in voice chats, gaming, and dishing out copious servings of trash talk. Okay. All right, so there were a few TMI moments. I will try to word this as tastefully as possible. But one night, a member of the group brought up an adult entertainment video he had watched. I do have major criticisms of that industry, but they are unrelated to the topic at hand. What he believed was an interaction between a man and a woman became much less interesting to him midway through when he finally saw in YouTube terms, she had a pickle. Let's continue. That feels incredibly strange to type. Yeah, okay. It feels worse to say out loud. A girl in the gaming group took major issue with his reaction. Why is he talking about this in this group chat? What does this have to do with gaming? And pulled out all the insults one might expect. Bigot, transphobe, but that wasn't the end of it. So she was rude and degrading because he had dared to express a biological preference that I'd imagine is hardwired into most people. This place where we had previously been comfortable talking about anything and everything, including some extremely deep and difficult topics, suddenly became somewhere that people were on edge all the time, afraid to express their true opinions. So the same group that had spent decades convincing us sexual preference is immutable and beyond our ability to control was now telling people that they are bigoted for their attractions, as if anyone has a choice in the matter. At the end of the day, we shouldn't be letting a thing like sexual preference come between us. Wasn't that the entire message of the gay rights movement? Well, now the messaging, especially within the trans movement, right? The woke trans people, you have to be attracted to them. If you're not attracted to a woman with a pickle, Kitty doesn't want to hear this. I don't blame her. You're a bigot. No, doesn't matter how nice you are, or how attractive you are, or anything. Nobody owes you attraction, romantic or physical. Nobody. Get that through your head, trans or not.
You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
Please never let anyone pressure you into liking someone just to seem inclusive, okay, or polite. You cannot demand sexual or romantic interest from anybody. And yet we're seeing this growing mindset, right? Especially in these online spaces. And far left activists and far right activists, they think that they're entitled to it. And in this specific case, like it's a diversity requirement. Please be for real. And what this guy experienced is exactly what happens when a tiny group of insane people hijack entire communities, right? They take spaces that were once relaxed and honest, and they turn them into places where everybody's on edge, everybody's walking on eggshells, terrified to speak freely because they don't want to be branded as a bigot. It's about control, not inclusion. And this reminded me of the Tinder conversation. They introduced this filter where you can get your matches to be a certain height, and men lost their minds. They were like, this is so superficial, this is discrimination, it's unfair. I agree it's superficial, but so is Tinder in general, so is any dating app. If you're using an app like that where you're literally swiping left or right based on someone's face and a vibe, what do you expect? Dating apps are designed for instant judgment. So let's stop pretending there's some utopian love-finding platform that needs to enforce moral equality. No. And then so some men were saying, well, what if we get a weight filter? Yeah. No, yeah. If there's a height filter, there should be a weight filter. Why not? If you're allowed to have a type, then so is everyone else, man or woman. I agree.
They added a height toggle to Tinder. Now, we all know what the response to this is going to be. Where is the weight toggle, right? Of course.
If you're on a superficial app, you're gonna get superficial behavior. That is the whole point. Swipe, judge, repeat. What we're not gonna do is act outraged when men have preferences. Women can write, must be 6'5", must be a millionaire. These are my standards. Okay. But a man says, yeah, I don't want to date someone that's obese. Oh, that's fatphobic, jail. I'm gay. I don't associate myself with the ABC community at all. My older sister a few years ago told everyone she was now a man. I don't agree with it at all, but I'll call her he, so fights don't occur at family events, etc. A few months ago, she asked me if I wanted to go on a date with her friend John. She told me we were very similar and had a lot of the same interests. I decided to give it a shot because why not? I get there and find out that it's a full-on woman with a pixie cut, wearing a rainbow t-shirt, and had black stars painted with makeup in her eyes. I thought I got the wrong person at first. I told her that I was gay and wasn't interested in dating a woman. Well, apparently she was a trans man, and me not wanting to date her is transphobic. See, this is something you should disclose before the actual date, especially with this case, because everyone here is some kind of LGBTQ, right? So it really should not be an issue. Why don't I set you up with this person, but just so you know, it's a trans man, are you interested? Especially because it's your sister, or sorry, brother. It's your trans brother. Whatever. You guys are related. Why wouldn't you be honest? Next day, my sister calls me and starts yelling at me saying, I did that for you, and you turn around to say you won't date a trans man? You're gay. You can't be transphobic. I swear. This is actually repackaged homophobia. You can't just be into men. You have to at least be bisexual. Trying to force this gay guy to be attracted to a biological woman. So are we back in the 1950s? Are we trying to convert gay people? Just because a woman gets a pixie cut doesn't make her a man now. All right. And apparently being gay means you're not allowed to prefer actual men. So I do identify as asexual. Okay. I want a romantic relationship, but I don't want to do sexual things, all right? I understand it seems impossible to find, which definitely sucks. I just hope to one day find someone that understands I am still attracted to people romantically. So I believe the correct term is hetero-romantic. All right, so this person, they share their flag in case anyone who would be interested in dating me would know what they're getting into beforehand. You know what? I do support this. Everything is so sexualized nowadays, right? We need more asexual people. Rise up. You are greatly needed in a time like this. I'm so serious. All right, anyway, so this person posted the flag. The day after I posted it, this girl I used to go to school with replied to my story and told me that's not a good flag to be using because apparently it's offensive. If I'm asexual, unless I'm romantically bi or gay, I should not be including that I'm romantically straight because there's no need. So, but why is there a need if you're gay or bi? You can be bi-romantic, pan-romantic, but the second you say you're into the opposite sex, you're crossing a line. Now, you probably know where I stand with labels. I find the whole thing kind of exhausting, right? With the flags, the micro labels, the color-coded sexuality infographics. But just because I don't really get the appeal, it doesn't mean I don't think people can post their flags. Whatever, you want to post a flag, fine. But when someone's expression hints at a little bit of heterosexuality, I guess in this case, hetero-romantic attraction, right? Blocked. Canceled. Are you okay? That's the irony because the person who unfollowed them probably thinks that they're this ally, inclusive, but they can't accept hetero romantic people. But if someone unfollows you because you are into the same gender or the opposite gender, right? If someone is gonna say, oh, I can't be your friend anymore because of your sexuality, doesn't matter what that sexuality is, unless you're saying you're into like kids or animals or some other up shit that should land you in prison. But again, if it's between two consenting adults and someone's like, oh yeah, I can't be friends with you, that sounds kind of straight, so I'm gonna block you, I'm gonna unfollow you. Yeah, those people don't deserve to be in your life. Goodbye, good riddance, you dodged a bullet. She unfollowed me on both my Instagram accounts. Asexuals who are romantically bi, gay, pan, or whatever are allowed to use a romantic asexual flag. But if a hetero romantic ace does, it's hateful? I guess so. You can't like the opposite gender ever. Even if it's just romantically, see, you're a bigot. We thought you were an ally, but you were secretly kind of straight. You can't sit with us anymore. You're hetero-romantic. Make friends with people that enjoy your company, that you get along with, that you find funny, that you can trust, instead of how similar are our sexualities. I don't understand what's going on. I don't get it, and I don't think I want to get it. I'm a 22-year-old female in a university in Canada, and it's kind of a shock to people that I'm this young and getting engaged. And she noticed people are starting to look at her differently and find it strange that she's willing to be a faithful wife as I talk about how happy I am and that I love cooking. I've had comments like, you're not his maid. Why are you doing that for him? And you know you don't have to be trapped. And you're so good at research. Why don't you focus on your career? She also wants 4 to 6 kids. I had an ally girl tell me her life story about how she was in a committed relationship for 5 years and left after being in uni for 3 months because she was worth more and proceeded to sleep with apparently 26 guys. She said how she was finally free to get diseases. And honestly, she looked dead in her eyes. Okay. Oh, and I straight up asked her if she got tested for STDs. I saw a flicker of regret when she mentioned the 100+ chicks guy. That sounds like a very healthy relationship waiting to happen. Yeah, she thinks all men are pigs. Well, if you're only interacting with those kinds of men, and no wonder you think that. She's not pushing her values on anyone. She's just happy, young, religious, wants to be a stay-at-home mom. Great. Apparently that's now triggering to a lot of women, right? And they project their burnout onto her. If you were confident in the choices you're making in your own life as a woman, you would not feel so triggered by that. You can simply say, wow, that's great. I'm so happy for you. I recognize that works for some, may not be my cup of tea, might not, align with what I want in life, but it works for you, great. And I don't think we should pressure people into that lifestyle, right? Of, oh, you have to marry young, or you have to have 6 kids, or you have to abandon your career. No, but the point is, if a woman chooses that path for herself, she wants to do that out of love, not pressure, fantastic, good for her. What's the problem? Okay, lesbian here, I got abandoned mid-date because I was appropriating another culture. She's mixed race, half Asian, half white, and grew up speaking Mandarin. She took a girl on a date to Chinatown in her city. She ordered in Mandarin, and the girl gave her a weird look. You shouldn't speak Chinese? As it was cultural appropriation, and I was being offensive because I'm white. Well, no, you're actually half white and half Asian. Even if you were 100% white, but knew Mandarin, why can't you speak Mandarin? Why? White people can't learn Mandarin? But let me guess, Chinese people can learn English, right? I explained to her my mixed race background, and she said, well, you still shouldn't speak it because you're not Asian enough anyway. And if you actually were, you wouldn't be dating women. All Asian people are straight. You learn something new every day. During our meal, she kept pressing me about the other Chinese things I've done. What? AKA what she deemed racist behavior, but I refused to answer as it was starting to escalate. She didn't want to see her anymore because she didn't want to date someone who openly appropriated culture. It seems that not only was I still too white to speak the language of an ethnicity and culture I am quite literally a part of, but also too Asian to even be dating women because I'd apparently get disowned. It's been 2 years since then and I haven't been disowned, and I'm happy to report that Chinese aunties and uncles are in fact very happy when they realize they can communicate with me in Mandarin. She's being accused of cultural appropriation of her own culture. They preach don't stereotype, but are the first ones to do it. So basically in 5th grade, I got a girlfriend. I was gay and she was bi at the time. I didn't even like her in the first place. I was pressured into dating her when I didn't even want to. I barely even knew her because she was new at school. There's a rumor going around that she got expelled from her old school for beating up kids because they wouldn't date her. That's a great sign. That's a green flag if I've ever heard one. Oh my goodness! She said stop being racist. Guys. So this one's about SA, and I can't read you the full story here, but the person repeatedly crossed boundaries, made threats, and then finally when she tried to say no, the other girl accused her of being racist for saying no. Then she spread false rumors, and when the victim finally tried to get help, the teachers dismissed it. They said she shouldn't even know what that means. She's so young. And the worst part is that she wasn't even the only one, right? The same girl, she had done this to multiple classmates. And still, no adult stepped in. Not the teachers, not the principal. It's conveniently ignored when it doesn't fit a neat, socially approved narrative, especially when it involves 2 girls. And the actual victim ends up ignored, silenced, or somehow even blamed. It's disgusting. And when adults choose denial just because the situation is complex or politically uncomfortable, they're not protecting kids. And I learned this really early on that not all teachers or principals or counselors, right, actually care. Some are amazing, yes, but others genuinely don't give a shit, and worse, some of them actually abuse their power. Some of them are sadistic, some of them are cruel. It's an uncomfortable truth, but that's why a lot of adults get those kinds of jobs. They get access to vulnerable children. Now, I saw that. I went to public school. I don't know what kind of school this girl went to, right? But I had a lot of friends back in elementary school, also around 5th grade, who dealt with something very similar, not SA, but and I remember walking them to the principal's office. I remember sitting with them, right, talking to the counselor. And I learned just how broken the system can be. So here's my advice. Never let it drag on. The very first time someone crosses a boundary like this, the very first time something makes you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, you speak up. You say something immediately. And I don't mean after class. I don't mean after school. I don't mean after the second time it happens. You get up immediately and you say, this person just did that. Tell a teacher, tell a parent, tell whoever you trust, and tell multiple people, because I learned that some of these counselors, some of these school psychologists, they don't give a shit. I had friends growing up who were shoved into closets by teachers and locked in there. Even if they were upset, even if the student was misbehaving, is that appropriate? No, it is not. So keep in mind, if you're a kid, if you're a parent, the counselors, the teachers, There's some really evil people out there. I, a very tomboy person, just assumed I was gay, and if she had feelings for me, I assumed I had to have them because everyone around me pressured me into thinking I was a lesbian. People told her she must be an asexual, aromantic demigirl lesbian. Alright, so she wanted to do a bunch of things. This girl was not comfortable with it. If it's like a guy and a girl, everyone would be on their side, and we would say, this guy should have listened to you when you said no, respected that. But when it's a girl and girl, suddenly no one cares. Like, this is the maybe third story I'm reading with a very similar theme. One is obviously making the other uncomfortable. It's the same thing. Anybody can be a predator. Girl, boy, not trans, straight, gay, having a cool sexuality or gender identity does not shield you from the consequences of your actions. She said she was autistic and all these mental health issues, and I was the only one she had in her life. Okay, that's not an excuse. Hello? You're autistic? Great. Go to a therapist, figure that out if you're having issues with your autism. That is never an excuse. You can't be like, I'm neurodivergent, so I can do whatever I want and make other people uncomfortable. Get out of here. Some people will be like, if you leave me, I'm gonna kill myself. Okay, it was nice knowing you. What kind of guilt tripping is that? I remember maybe like 10 years ago, this was a while ago, there was this kid who liked me, was not into him. I told him, I'm not into you like that. Because he was starting the whole, oh, I have to talk to you, okay, whatever. And I told him that, and he's like, if you don't like me back, I'm gonna drink bleach. And I said, okay, bottoms up. Because what the you think you're gonna guilt trip me into liking you? I don't like you. You got issues, go to a therapist. That's not my problem. Man, woman, doesn't matter. Never let anyone guilt trip you into doing something you don't want to do. Oh, but I'm neurodivergent. Oh, but I'm gay. Oh, but I'm trans. Who gives a So anyways, now she's a 19-year-old woman and is not gay. She's embracing her feminine side. She's happy. Okay, so she wasn't gay. She thought she was gay. We live in a time where being queer adjacent is considered more interesting than being straight, all right? So you can take a look at women like JoJo Siwa. You know, she's lesbian, she's constantly wearing rainbows, and now she's saying she felt pressured into identifying as gay. I take everything she says with a grain of salt because she might be rage baiting for views, but that does not mean that other women aren't actually experiencing that actual pressure into identifying as something other than straight, gay, bi, whatever, because it makes you more interesting to a certain crowd. Someone can change that label later on and suddenly they're seen as a traitor. When you look at detransitioners, for example, right, who have stopped identifying as trans, the hostility they get from their own community is so disturbing, all right? It's like so much for authenticity, so much for living your truth, right? You can identify as whatever you want and then realize, oh, okay, oops, that wasn't really me. You're allowed to do that. Do not listen to anyone else saying, oh, but you would be a traitor. It's your life. You should not be lying to yourself and to others just to make someone else happy. The last 3 people I tried to start seeing all knew I am sober before we ever met up in person. But the only thing people seem to know how to do is drink, so they try to get me to break my sobriety. Some of them make small comments like, I'd love it if you were able to drink 1 beer with me. And then there's the others. You deserve to let loose after controlling yourself that long. That is disgusting. Especially if they know you had a problem maybe in the past. What is that? But apparently being sober now makes you the weirdo. The same people who talk about boundaries, right, consent, and safe spaces and all these things will literally try to coax you into breaking the one boundary that might have saved your life for people that had, some kind of alcohol issue, because your discipline exposes their dysfunction. They can't handle someone who is numbing themselves this way. I think it's just a modern issue. I don't think it's gay or straight. I think a lot of people nowadays, they rely on that like a crutch. Oh, let me just get a little high, a little drunk. How don't you do that? That's so boring. They should be the ones ashamed of trying to force someone into doing something they're uncomfortable with. Dating today isn't just complicated, it is politicized, it is weaponized, and honestly, kind of embarrassing, especially for the people who think they can shame others for having preferences. Whether you're looking for a relationship, not looking for a relationship, maybe you're already in a relationship, right? It seems that everybody's being told what they're allowed to be. You're not allowed to be straight. You're not allowed to be just gay or to be sober or to be traditional. Let's be clear though, you are not problematic for having standards, for having preferences, for having boundaries. You are not evil for wanting real connection or for simply knowing what you're into. Attraction is not some political statement, okay? It is personal. And if that bothers someone, they can call it problematic, they can call it whatever they want. But that just means they weren't ready for someone who actually knows themselves and what they want in life. That just means they were looking for control. not connection. And you don't owe anyone your time, especially someone that can't even handle others who have standards, who have preferences. Let me know which story surprised you the most, or if you have your own advice for anyone who shared their experience, make sure to comment that below. Or feel free to share your own dating disasters or successes. Also, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video, and like and share, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.